What's up? It's Kyle Whissel coming to you today. Sorry about that. Just finishing a little battle of COVID. Apparently that still exists. So wanted to welcome you guys. You're probably expecting to see our Fast Forward Movement Monday Mastermind. We're not doing that today. It is Memorial Day, and we want to honor those who gave their life for our country. So there's no mastermind or masterclass today. We'll resume our normal programming tomorrow. Tomorrow we have our new agent launch program, and we have our lieutenants mastermind. So make sure to hop on those if those are where you're at in your business. But I want to make sure to just give you a few minutes of value real quick for those of you that did hop on the link today. And as promised, we're going to hit on the one big, beautiful tax bill that recently passed the House. Next step is it has to go to the Senate and then ultimately the President before it becomes law. So one thing to understand is the House passed this. The Senate has to review it. They're not necessarily going to pass exactly what the House passed. There's going to be some negotiations. There's going to be, some people that might say, hey, I'm not going to say yes unless you change this or that. So just know that the current version of One Big Beautiful Bill is not the final version. There's guaranteed to be some changes. But all expectations are this thing will get through the Senate and ultimately the President will sign it. I don't know what those changes are. I'm also not a CPA. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a lawyer. Talk to all those people on anything that I share with you today just to make sure that you fully understand it. Ultimately, though, what I want to share today is my favorite thing right now. There's a investment strategy called buy, depreciate, borrow, die. Yeah, it's that kind of dying, unfortunately, guys. But that's part of life. Nobody's ever escaped this life alive. So we just got to be prepared for it. And we got to talk about, right, we're not making up any rules here. We're not skirting around any rules here. We're just playing by the rules. They make them. We play by them. That's our job as real estate agents, as investors, and as agents to our clients to do what's best for them. So the premise of this strategy is very simple. Go buy real estate. Nobody's ever mad they bought real estate, whether they bought it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Like, everybody's happy they bought real estate, especially the ones who bought it like 20 plus years ago. They're sitting pretty. I know at my old house, my neighbor had paid like $20,000 for their house. It's now worth $1 million. Pretty awesome. I think we all want that in our life. We all want that for our kids in their life. So let's just start out. Let's go buy some investment real estate. And everything I'm talking about today is investment specific, not personal residence. So we got to go buy the real estate. Once we buy it, we get to depreciate it. When you depreciate real estate, I'm going to go to a slide deck that I did a few years ago and just try to hit on this real quick. Depreciation. This is a great way to get tax write-offs. Some call it one of the many wonders of the world, depreciation. So traditionally when you buy real estate, we're just going to focus on residential for right now. You're going to take the value of the real property. So let's say you bought something for $375,000. And let's say $100,000 of that was the value of the land. $275,000 was the value of the real property. You're going to take the value of the real property divided by 27.5 because somebody decided that that's the number that they were going to go with. So 275,000 divided by 27.5, that's $10,000. You're going to get a $10,000 write-off for the next 27.5 years. That's pretty cool. And it doesn't matter how much money you put down. You could have bought it with cash. You could have bought it, subject to with no money down. Doesn't make a difference, but you can still get the same write-off. Then they came out with something a little more advanced where instead of just straight lining it and spreading it over 27.5 years equally, you could break it into buckets, 5-year, 15-year, 27.5 year, and land. And then again, if it was commercial, 39 years. So I'm going to show you an actual cost segregation that I did on a property. You see this personal with the number 5, that's your 5-year bucket. Site with a 15 on it, that's a 15-year bucket. Real with a 27.5 year, that's a 27.5 year bucket, and then land. So they break things down. So on this cost segregation analysis that was done, they determined that I had $142,000 worth of land. The concrete driveway was and walkways were like 25 grand. The water lines and those were 15-year. Then you have the water service and the sewer line, 27.5 year. The fencing, the landscaping, 15-year, right? So they break everything into these 4 buckets, and then you get to expedite those write-offs. So anything that had a 5-year lifespan on it, you get to write that off over 5 years. Anything that had a 15-year bucket, 15. and then 27.5, obviously. What this is allows you to do is move things forward a little bit. So you're going to get a lot of write-offs in the first 5 years, a good amount in the first 15, and then very little those last 12 and a half years. So it just kind of pushes that write-off forward, which we all want the write-off sooner rather than later. That's what cost segregation does. And then under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they said that anything that is 20 years or less, you could actually write that off all in year one, up to a certain percentage. So up until 2022, you could write off 100%. And then that basically tapers 20% per year. So this year is supposed to be 40%. So if we look at my actual cost segregation report, this determined that of the $708,000 of total value of the property, $50,000 of it was 5 years, $107,000 of it was 15 years, $410,000 was 27 and a half years, $142,000 was land. $157,000. I bought this in 2021, so I was able to write off 100% of this expense in year one. That was $157,000 write-off in year one. Pretty crazy, right? Like massive write-off. And then I still had this other $410,000. Now we just take that, divide that by 27 and a half, and I'm going to write that much off per year. So I'm still getting, a decent write-off after year one, but it allows me to get a massive write-off in year two. Well, here's the thing. This is supposed to be 40% this year. Part of One Big Beautiful Bill is we're going to go back to 100 for the next few years. So if the One Big Beautiful Bill passes, pay attention to the depreciation, come back to 100%. So right now, let's assume this was my report, I'd only be able to get 40% of that $157,000. If this passes, it's 100% of that. It's pretty crazy, right? That's a big freaking write-off. It's a really big write-off, guys. So this one, there's very little expectation that this is going to be one of the things affected as it goes through the Senate. So feeling very optimistic about this. So you can come in here, buy real estate, again, with as little as no money down, and you get these massive write-offs. This means, like, again, all this was buying one property. $157,000 write-off. Think about if you could wipe out $157,000 of your income just because you bought a property. It's crazy, right? So then the next part of the strategy is borrow. So once you've bought this property, so let's use this exact property. This property is now worth over $1 million. And I only owe like $600 and something thousand on it. So now I'm borrowing against this property. I'm borrowing, I think, like $300,000 against the same property. How much tax do I have to pay when I borrow? What am I paying? Oh, there's no tax when you borrow money. Isn't that a crazy thing? So I already got that $157,000 write-off in year one. It's a short-term rental that's actually cash flowing for me. Now I get to take cash out, and then I can go buy more real estate. Oh, wouldn't that be weird if you could like take $300,000 out, and then you can go buy more property, and then depreciate it to wipe out more taxes? Crazy, right? Or alternatively, if the property that you own, you don't want to hold that property anymore. Maybe it's just not a performing asset. You don't like it. There's just reasons you don't want that anymore. One thing that I've found that we all need to think about is every year you hold on to a property is a year you're basically rebuying that property. If you keep holding that property, you keep buying that property. So every year you should do an analysis and think, like, should I continue to hold this property or should I go buy that property? Because if there's an opportunity to get out of an underperforming property and get into an overperforming property, you should probably do it. And we get to do that via this amazing thing called a 1031 exchange. We can sell and buy and pay no taxes at that time. We defer the taxes. We just roll the taxes over. It's a beautiful thing. In fact, that Nashville property, I actually bought that doing a 1031 exchange. I had a little condo that I had bought for $100, sold it for $300, took the entire gain, rolled it in. That's how I bought that property. So the next part of that strategy, buy, depreciate, and then borrow. Or if it doesn't make sense to borrow against that property, maybe you want to sell the property and exchange into a better property. And then the last part of this thing, unfortunately, yes, we're all going to die someday, but what's going to happen when we die? Well, part of this One Big Beautiful Bill is there's a provision for the estate and gift tax limitation. So back before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that number was coming up on about $6 million as an individual, and double if you're married. And then that raised it to the point where this year it's like 14 million. Technically it's like 13.98 million. I don't know why. 27.98 million if you're married. But if nothing else was done, that was going to drop down to about $7 million. And so the one big beautiful bill, what that does is, as opposed to us dropping from this 14 million down to 7, what it does is actually increases us up to 15 million, or 30 million if you're married. So the whole strategy with this is, it's an unfortunate name, but it's called swap till you drop. You're constantly exchanging properties until you die, and then you hand all those properties over to your kids based on the one big beautiful bill. 15 million as an individual, 30 million as a married couple. So you can build up this $30 million real estate empire and then hand it all over to your kids when you die. The basis in those properties will step up to whatever the value is at the date of death. And your kid, all those taxes, all this depreciation that you wiped out, all the taxes you deferred from exchanges, it all goes away and you step up that basis. So there's my share for you guys today. Buy, depreciate, borrow, or exchange, die. It's a beautiful thing. And the one big beautiful bill, between the bonus depreciation and the increasing of the gift and estates tax, really plays nicely into that strategy. And as far as I could tell, there was no changes proposed to 1031 exchanges. So that strategy just plays very, very nicely. With that said, I am out. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming tomorrow. If you guys want an invite to our traditional Monday Mastermind for next week, reach out to whoever it was who invited you on here today, and they'll get you the login for that mastermind next week. I'm Kyle Whissel. We'll see you guys.